Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Iron Man 3 shotgun armor from Comicave Studios. This guy is 75% die-cast, which it doesn't actually mean anything. I mean, if you're a fan of die-cast, that's fine. If you're not, that's fine. It doesn't really change anything about the figure, other than if the legs are die-cast, they're heavy and he's easier to balance. Otherwise, die-cast really doesn't matter, so it's up to you if you like that or not. Anyway, let's talk about the figure. It's a really cool figure, cool looking figure, I should say, and it's kind of odd otherwise. There's a lot of very odd things about this figure, so let's just get it off the stand and take a closer look. And this guy stands just about 16 centimeters, which makes him about 6¼ inches, which isn't all that large. It's true to scale if you're putting him in 1/12 scale, but it's not actually that big compared to like a Marvel Legends figure. So if you want to put them in scale, I'll grab one and you can do a really quick comparison. Alright, so I was able to grab the newest War Machine figure, which is not from Iron Man 3, but it just gives you a size comparison. That's the Marvel Legends one compared to the Comicave one. So everybody's always asked me, show me a comparison. They're not in scale. They never are. There's not really any benefit to me showing you. They don't fit. The imports are not the right scale, especially for this case. So if you're trying to get it, you're going to have to really force it if you want it to be in the same like display setting. All right, so this guy looks really good. The paintwork is phenomenal. You can see there's tons of detail work throughout, all kinds of little silver lines, panel lining, very nice metallic paint finish. Looks really good. We have kind of like that bluish gray, regular gray, silver, gunmetal, a little bit of black in there. Very nice looking figure, a lot more detail on the back even. So that's very cool. It does light up. So there's a switch back here, which is easy enough to turn on and off. You have to take it apart to get to the batteries, so that's a bit of a turn off. But you can flip the switch, and then the chest lights up. And the chest lights up really brightly. It doesn't show up well right now because of all the lighting, but it's almost like a flashlight. So it's very, very bright, probably too bright. And then on the other hand, his eyes light up back there. But you can't see him at all right now, and even with the harsh lights not on, you can barely see it. They don't look much brighter than they do right now normally. So the eyes are not anywhere near bright enough, and the chest is too bright, so be aware of that. Alright, before we get into the figure anymore though, let's talk accessories. He has 2 fist hands which come on him in the package, 2 kind of gripping style hands, 2 straight pegged repulsor hands, 2 angled peg repulsor hands, and then 2 repulsor hands that are actually meant to use the blast effects, which are really nicely done, translucent orange. However, those hands are the only hands that can use those blast effects. They can't be used for anything else, so they might as well be permanent, but it doesn't matter, so just be aware that those effects only work for those hands. And then he has a blast effect for his back, which is for just like his thruster, and it's a little bit more translucent with a little bit more clear to orange ratio, but it pegs in nicely and looks really cool. And then lastly, we have the display stand, which is really nicely done. We have the acrylic upright or the interchangeable bendy upright, which is very similar to Hot Toys display stands. So you have some options there. Now, let's talk about the figure, because like I said, it looks really good. It has, as you can see, a decent amount of accessories, so that's good. Lighting doesn't work as well as I'd like. And here's the thing. You have to realize this figure costs about 3 times as much, maybe, well, a little bit less, like 2.5 times as much as your SH Figure Arts figures. Same size in general. I don't have one here to show you because it's all packed up. Same size as a Figure Arts figure, almost 3 times as much money. So keep that in mind as we're going through this. Articulation for the head. The head's on a ball peg, so it can lean a little bit. That's it. And then it can rotate from there to there. That's it. And then the neck is on a hinge, so it can look down a little bit. It goes from there to there. So, almost useless head articulation. You already saw me move the goggle things. You can do that. But it looks really derpy, so you definitely don't want to do that. You want to leave those down. So you have that option. Now the shoulder pads aren't a terrible design, except for the fact that they're connected to the body, which means I don't like them. You guys have heard me say time and time again, shoulder pads connected to the body are not a good thing. These are probably the best I've seen of that category, but they still aren't great. They have a ball hinge and a ball peg, so they have a lot of posability. You can move them around quite a lot, so when you move the arm, it doesn't end up getting in the way too much. It's doable, but it's still going to be more in the way than if it was connected on the arm. The same exact design. I don't know how well you can see in there. You probably can't too much. But if that design was the exact same thing but connected to the arm, it'd be perfect. It would work just fine. But as it is, if you raise the arm, the shoulder pad's going to get in the way. And as you can see, it's already flexing it, and it's definitely going to break it if I keep going. So you don't want to do that. And the arm can come off, so that's a thing. Well, now you can see the articulation a little bit better, probably. It's not great. So let's talk about the shoulder. We have a ball peg that connects to this socket, which is kind of like a butterfly joint. You saw it move a little bit already. So the arm itself can just move around on that socket, and then that can pull out a little bit. Almost not enough to even matter, though. It does pop off way too easily. That is not a good thing for a figure this expensive at this scale. Doesn't want to stay in there. And you do have the full hinge in there, so at least that's good. You can raise the arm, no problem. You have your bicep swivel, which works just fine, so that's okay. That's good. The bicep swivel is fine. The shoulder itself is okay other than falling apart. We have a double jointed elbow, but in reality, it's just a single jointed elbow, and it's not a good looking one. You can bend it here, which is your really your only hinge. And then this part down here gives you just like the tiniest little bit of extra movement. That's it. So it's really not a good design. It almost looks like his arm is broken after the elbow. It's too many bends. That doesn't look good, and it doesn't function well. So you have to do that just to get 90 degrees. So I'm not on board with that. Then we have a ball hinge down here underneath this corrugated piece. So you can't really function that ball hinge at all. It's very awkward. So you have that, and then you have a ball peg where the hand actually connects. So basically you have a ball peg. That ball hinge is useless underneath that corrugated wrist piece. And now we have the torso articulation. So we have a single, well, it's technically a double ball peg inside the torso because I took it apart to look, but it functions almost not at all, so I'll just show you. It leans that far forward. Yeah, that's it. It leans that far forward and that far back. And the directions say you need to use an appropriate amount of force, or what did it say? It said some kind of amount of force. Basically saying you're going to need to use some force, the way they worded it, but you don't want to use any, because if you pop this off, you're most likely going to rip the wires from the battery compartment up to the torso. So don't pull on or mess with this torso at all. It has almost no range, just a little bit of rotation. And then same thing for the lower torso, just a little bit of rotation. Almost useless. Very disappointing for this figure. I don't understand where the money's at on this guy. These hip flaps are on ball hinges or ball pegs. Ball pegs. They move around enough to accommodate the hips. It doesn't look great, but it is there, so you can move the hips around. They go all the way out to the side, so that's a good thing. Then they have the hinged ball peg like your SH Figure Arts, so you can drop them down and bring them pretty far forward, and then you can kind of close that hip flap up a little bit. But it still just looks awkward. You can close it up a little bit, but it just looks kind of awkward with these hip flaps there, and the ball hinge works, or the hinged ball peg works fine like a Figure Arts figure. It's just, I don't know, it's more gappy even than a Figure Arts, so it's not great. And then there's no thigh swivel, it's just the rotation on that ball peg, so it's very odd that you're paying so much for this figure and it doesn't really have anything special about it. For the knees, we have a double jointed knee, but you only get 90 degrees out of it, and it's a little bit floppy, so nothing special there. And then we have a little flap back here for the ankle. This can open up, so you can bring the foot back a little bit farther, so that's okay. And then you have to pull the foot down in order to use the hinge, really. So you can pull it down a little bit, but it doesn't ever want to go. And then you can bring it forward just a little bit. So it's not particularly functional. You do have an ankle rocker, but again, it's not particularly functional. And you have a toe hinge, but it's a really weird design. It's very ugly, and it's not particularly functional. So nothing on this figure works really well. The only thing that works really well is the paint job. It looks really nice. So if you want to just buy it to have it stand there in like a repulsor blast pose, you can do that. And that's pretty much all it's good for. So at the price point, I have to say 100%, unquestionably, not worth the price tag, not worth the purchase. Not even close. Very disappointing for the price point. Even if it was half the price, it'd be very disappointing. I'd have to pay $40 for this figure to be okay with all of those flaws. So you guys can use that information and make the decisions you need to. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We have new videos up every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, and all kinds of other fun stuff. So make sure you come back for that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.